What if everything you've been told about laziness is a lie? What if what feels like not trying hard enough is actually your mind's desperate cry for help? Laziness isn't laziness. It's exhaustion, a deep, invisible mental fatigue that drains your energy and clouds your willpower. But because it's unseen, it gets dismissed, judged, and misunderstood. You're not broken. You're not weak. Feeling stuck, unmotivated, or drained doesn't mean you've failed. It means your brain is running on empty, overwhelmed by stress, expectations, or burnout, and instead of compassion, you get the cold label of lazy. That label traps you in shame and keeps you from addressing what's really going on. It's time to stop blaming yourself and start seeing the hidden truth beneath the surface. Because understanding the real cause of your laziness is the first step to reclaiming your energy, your focus, and your life. Let's unpack what's really happening inside you. Mental exhaustion is one of the most misunderstood forms of fatigue because it hides beneath the surface. Unlike physical tiredness, which shows through drooping eyes, aching muscles, or the obvious need for rest, mental exhaustion is silent and sneaky. It seeps into your daily life unnoticed, draining your focus, clouding your thinking, and eroding your willpower without leaving any visible bruises or scars. You look fine on the outside, but inside, your brain feels like it's running on fumes. The causes of this hidden fatigue are complex and often overlapping. Chronic stress is a major culprit. The constant pressure from work, relationships, or life challenges triggers a nonstop flood of cortisol and adrenaline. Your nervous system stays on high alert long after the stressor passes, exhausting your mental resources over time. Emotional overload, whether from grief, anxiety, or unresolved conflicts, piles on top of this, making your mind feel like a pressure cooker ready to explode. Decision fatigue is another sneaky driver. Every choice you make uses up a small amount of mental energy. The more decisions, the quicker your reserves drain. This might sound trivial, but for someone juggling countless responsibilities, it adds up fast. Eventually, your brain stops caring about choices, big or small. That's when procrastination kicks in, motivation vanishes, and even simple tasks feel overwhelming. Unresolved trauma adds another layer to this exhaustion. Traumatic experiences don't just affect your memories. They keep your brain stuck in survival mode. Your nervous system stays wired for danger even when you're safe. This constant internal tension consumes mental energy you don't realize you're losing. And because trauma is often invisible to others, you get labeled as lazy or unmotivated instead of being seen for the deep work you're actually doing just to survive. Your brain's circuits become fried. Imagine a computer running too many programs at once, overheating and slowing down. That's what your mind experiences. Concentration falters, creativity dries up, and memory feels unreliable. Tasks that once seemed simple require Herculean effort. You can't summon willpower because your brain is depleted. But the worst part? Your body looks fine. You appear normal to the outside world, so no one understands the battle raging inside. This invisibility makes mental exhaustion uniquely cruel. Because you don't look sick, people expect you to perform at your usual level. You get pressure to just push through or snap out of it, which only deepens your exhaustion and shame. The mismatch between how you feel and how others see you creates isolation. You start doubting yourself, questioning if your struggles are valid or if you're just lazy or weak. Rest doesn't come easily either. When physical exhaustion hits, your body signals clearly. You need sleep, food, or a break. Mental exhaustion, however, is more elusive. Even when you do rest physically, your mind might stay stuck in overdrive, replaying worries, negative thoughts, or fears. You lie awake at night, exhausted but unable to shut off. This restless state prevents the deep mental recovery you desperately need. Awareness is the first step to breaking this cycle. Recognizing that your lack of motivation or energy isn't laziness, it's your brain screaming for relief, changes the game. You start to see that what you need isn't more willpower or discipline, but real mental rest and repair. That might look like setting boundaries, reducing stimuli, or seeking professional support. It means shifting your mindset from blame to compassion. Mental exhaustion demands respect because it's a legitimate form of fatigue with serious consequences. Ignoring it doesn't make it disappear. It worsens, increasing the risk of burnout, depression, and chronic health problems. But when you acknowledge it, you can begin to rebuild. You can learn to listen to your brain's signals and give yourself the care that goes beyond surface fixes. This invisible exhaustion is real, and treating it with seriousness is the key to reclaiming your energy and your life. Why pushing harder only makes it worse. The default response to mental exhaustion, especially in a culture obsessed with productivity, is to push harder. Just try harder, people say, but that advice is not just useless, it's damaging. It's like telling someone with a broken leg to run a marathon. When your brain is fried, willpower is no longer a reliable tool. Forcing yourself to grind through exhaustion only deepens the cracks, accelerating burnout and crushing motivation. Pushing harder triggers a vicious cycle. You start off with good intentions, trying to meet deadlines, fulfill commitments, or prove you're not lazy. But the more you force yourself, the more overwhelmed you feel. Your nervous system becomes flooded with stress hormones, which hijack your ability to think clearly and regulate emotions. Anxiety spikes, and every task feels like climbing a mountain with a heavy backpack. Instead of progress, you spiral into exhaustion and self-judgment. This self-judgment is the cruelest part. When you push and still can't deliver, your inner critic turns up the volume. You're not doing enough, it says. You're weak. You're failing. These toxic messages chip away at your self-worth and fuel feelings of shame and guilt. And shame is the worst kind of energy drain. It convinces you that resting or stepping back is selfish or lazy, even when it's exactly what you need. The truth is, your brain isn't a muscle you can flex endlessly. It's a complex organ with limits. When you push past those limits without rest, you're not showing strength, you're sabotaging your health and long-term productivity. Your cognitive abilities decline, your emotional regulation weakens, and your physical body starts to rebel with headaches, insomnia, or even illness. Pushing harder in this state is like trying to squeeze water from a dry sponge. What you actually need is the opposite of pushing: rest. Real rest. Not just binge watching TV or scrolling endlessly on your phone, but restorative rest that resets your nervous system and renews your mental capacity. This means quieting the noise, creating space for genuine downtime, and letting your brain disconnect from constant stimulation. Without this, you're building your life on a foundation that's cracking under pressure. Recovery also requires restructuring your environment. This means setting boundaries around your time and energy, saying no to non-essential demands, reducing decision fatigue by simplifying your routines, seeking support when needed, whether through therapy, coaching, or community. It's not weakness, it's smart strategy, because mental exhaustion isn't defeated by willpower. It's healed by thoughtful, intentional care that respects your limits and nurtures your capacity to grow again. Practical steps to reclaim your energy. First and foremost, prioritize rest, real, intentional rest that goes beyond the quick breaks and half-hearted pauses you might be used to. Schedule these breaks deliberately and protect them fiercely. Don't let guilt or pressure steal this vital time from you. Rest isn't a luxury, it's a biological necessity. Quality sleep in particular is non-negotiable. Without deep, restorative sleep, your brain can't reset or process the emotional and mental weight you carry. Stop treating sleep like a reward or an afterthought, and start treating it as the foundation of your health and productivity. Next, limit the number of decisions you make daily. Decision fatigue is a silent energy sucker that most people don't recognize. Even seemingly small choices, what to eat, what to wear, what task to tackle next, add up and deplete your mental reserves. Automate as many routines as you can. Meal prep, set a capsule wardrobe, or create a consistent morning ritual. This isn't about dulling your life. It's about reserving your cognitive energy for the moments that truly demand it, preventing overwhelm and burnout. Setting boundaries is the third crucial step. Boundaries aren't just polite requests. They're lifelines that protect your mental space and energy. Learn to say no firmly and without apology. Guard your time and emotional capacity from unnecessary demands and toxic dynamics. When you stretch yourself too thin, you become fuel for exhaustion, not resilience. Boundaries create the breathing room your brain needs to heal and recharge. Engaging in low-effort joy is often underestimated but is vital for mental recovery. These are the small, gentle activities that soothe your nervous system without taxing your energy. Slow walks in nature, light stretching, listening to music that calms or inspires you, these moments are not indulgences. They provide subtle but powerful nourishment for your mind and body, allowing you to reconnect with pleasure and peace without pushing yourself harder. Another key strategy is learning to simplify your environment. Declutter your physical space, organize your schedule, and reduce sensory overload. Chaos around you translates to chaos within you, making it harder for your brain to rest. Creating a calm, orderly environment sends a message to your nervous system that it's safe to relax. It's easier to focus, breathe, and recover when your surroundings aren't competing for your attention. Don't underestimate the power of asking for help. Mental exhaustion can feel isolating, but you don't have to carry the burden alone. Reach out to trusted friends, family, or professionals who understand what you're going through. Support isn't a sign of weakness. It's a smart and courageous step toward healing. Sometimes just being heard and seen lightens the load enough to help you start rebuilding your energy. Mindfulness and breathing practices can also offer powerful relief. Even a few minutes of focused breathing or meditation can calm your nervous system, reduce anxiety, and increase mental clarity. These tools aren't about forcing productivity. They're about creating space inside your mind, a pause button that lets you step back from exhaustion and regain perspective. Finally, remember this: these steps are not optional extras you try when you have free time. They are essential foundational habits for reclaiming your energy and breaking free from the trap of exhaustion disguised as laziness. Without rest, boundaries, simplicity, and support, motivation and willpower will continue to flicker and fade. Treat these practices like the vital care your mind and body demand, because your long-term well-being depends on it. Reframe your self-worth beyond productivity. Your worth is not a measurement of how much you accomplish or how hard you hustle. Society bombards you with the message that productivity equals value, that the busier you are, the more worthy you become. But that message is a trap, especially when you're struggling with mental exhaustion. The harsh lesson mental fatigue teaches is that you are human first and a doer second. Your intrinsic value exists independently from what you produce. When your identity is tied solely to achievement, every moment of rest or perceived slowing down feels like failure. You internalize exhaustion as a personal flaw, laziness, or weakness. This toxic mindset fuels shame and deepens your isolation, making it harder to ask for the help or rest you truly need. The only way out of this cycle is radical self-compassion, an acknowledgement that your current state is a signal, not a judgment. Granting yourself compassion means accepting that mental exhaustion isn't a moral failing. It's your brain and body's way of telling you to stop, breathe, and recalibrate. This shift from self-criticism to understanding opens space for healing. It weakens the grip of the inner critic that demands more, often at the cost of your health and sanity. Seeing exhaustion as a message rather than a verdict cracks open room for honest reflection. It asks you to question the beliefs you've inherited about worth and success. Why do you equate being valuable only when you're productive? What if your value lies in your existence, your presence, your capacity to feel and be, regardless of output? Healing begins when you stop labeling yourself as lazy or unmotivated. These labels are traps that keep you stuck in shame and inaction. Instead, start to recognize your limits without judgment. Notice when your energy dips and allow yourself permission to rest. Reframe rest not as failure, but as a necessary act of self-care and renewal. This isn't just about being kinder to yourself, it's about redefining success on your own terms. Sustainable growth is born from honoring your humanity, respecting your boundaries, and embracing your imperfections. When you untangle self-worth from productivity, you build a foundation strong enough to support real, lasting change. In this reframed mindset, your worth becomes unshakable because it's rooted in who you are, not what you do. That truth is the key to breaking free from the exhaustion cycle and stepping into a life where energy, purpose, and compassion coexist. The label of lazy is a cruel lie fed to you by a culture that values non-stop hustle over human limits. It's a story your mind sometimes tells itself to justify pushing through exhaustion instead of honoring it. But real strength isn't grinding harder. It's the courage to recognize when you're depleted and to choose rest without shame or guilt. Mental exhaustion is not weakness. It demands respect. It signals that your body and brain need a break, a reset, a chance to heal. When you listen and respond with care instead of judgment, you reclaim control over your life instead of surrendering to burnout. Grant yourself permission to pause. This is not giving up, it's radical resistance against a system that profits from your depletion. Rest isn't just recovery, it's rebellion. In that space of rest, you rebuild your power, regain clarity, and reconnect with your true self. Only from this grounded place can you move forward, stronger, sharper, and truly alive. Rest is not the enemy of productivity. It's the foundation for meaningful, sustainable growth. Embrace it. Your life depends on it.